My mom told me not to talk to strangers on the internet, but I'm glad I didn't listen. We are the Certified Noonas, your sisters in the love of Asian entertainment.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
I'm Jessie.
I'm Natalia.
And I'm Sky.
And today we're taking a little journey into self-care. It's been, a couple year and a half of time when we needed, some self-care, and a lot of people can turn to dramas to help them deal with things going on in their own lives, some sort of catharsis of some sorts. So we're going to talk about healing dramas and, how you can use dramas for your own self-care, like I'm sure we have done before.
A time or two.
Maybe once or twice.
I think a lot of people did.
I think over this pandemic, a lot of people discovered that K-dramas are really great for that sort of thing.
Well, and I think just everything, right? Like I got more into reading again, just for whatever reason. And I think a lot of people have found those things that used to bring them comfort and they fell away from, and now they're like getting back into them and stuff. So that's good too.
So what would we all define a healing drama as? Like what would the world maybe define a healing drama as?
I think the world defines a healing drama basically slice of life, even though that's not really it, because you can have a healing drama. Slice of lives are supposed to be like literally from life. Like there shouldn't be anything that's like extraordinary or like any sort of drama or anything like that. It should just be kind of straight up like
people doing people
things, which is not necessarily healing. So
it can be, but like not always.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I guess it's more of like I don't know.
It's kind of like hard to define. It's like nebulous, right?
Especially like in terms of like Asian dramas, because we don't really have that in Western media that I can think of.
Not often at all. Once in a blue moon, you'll run across something that has a moment or a theme in it that can be
like maybe
that
but like
way.
maybe more like holiday favorites or I
mean more
like,
mini series and
Christmas
movie of the week and
movies
stuff.
Movies more than shows.
I don't see much in shows or like actual like season shows, not
I think that's part of the
specials.
problem is because of the season thing. It's like you can't keep the same theme going
now
over and over.
I'm just gonna say, would Hallmark-esque movies be in that genre?
For some
like
people,
they might be. Like,
some of them.
I think in terms of like closest that I could like relate to like Asian like healing dramas versus what Western entertainment gives us. I think
I think people have a tendency to kind of go, there's rom-coms and then there's healing dramas, right? Like if it's a romance, it's either a rom-com or it's a healing drama. And I don't think that's always true either. Like it, but I think the mellow does like lend itself more to that, like that you were saying, like the Hallmark movie kind of that, been through a horrible divorce or you're widowed or you're whatever, and then you move forward in your life and you heal from your past trauma and now you're free to find love, kind of tends to seem to be the arc, but not always with the love. Like there isn't always.
Is it kind of like almost a personal growth type thing?
It is, but you can also apply it to like the way it's shot, that it's like healing and that it's not going to be causing anxiety for the viewer itself, which could be nothing to do with like the story. It could be just like that it's soft lighting, soft filters on all the movie or TV show. The dialogue is softer. They don't have like a lot of like hard noises, that sort of thing too. So
to where sometimes the way it's shot can be more comforting, and maybe the plot, while it might have some healing things or whatever in it, sometimes the plot can actually be a wee stressful or suspenseful or something, but like, the way it's shot is the thing that makes it more of a healing, comforting situation.
I get, in that sense, I think of the drama like Something in the Rain, where the plot of that drama and the characters in it do not lend themselves to this theme, but the way it is shot is very peaceful and like serene and stuff. And you'll have these horrible characters, but it's like the rest of it is, you know, just sort of chill, like the
I feel like When the Weather is Fine was like that too, in some senses. Like some of the characters were great and there was growth and healing that happened for them, but some of the stuff in it was also pretty intense and pretty difficult to watch. But the lighting and the, you know, filters and the way everything just sort of happened at a peaceful pace most of the time had that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. Your House Helper was also like that. There were some like storylines that were pretty like big because there was like a sexual assault issue or like something with that. It's been a while since I've seen the drama, but like the way that it was shot and the way that like the characters spoke, like especially the main character, his cadence with everything, it was very like peaceful and calming, and then also using like the cleaning shots as like a help, whether it helped the characters or not, it was within the drama, it was very healing.
And if we're talking about like shots like that, I'm thinking of the Thai drama Ingredients, which is web drama. In essence, like the plot of it is just two roommates during the pandemic when they can't leave the house, so they're just doing stuff together. But there's a lot of just like really nice like cooking shots and like washing your hands. In one episode there's a cute baby, like there's just, you know, it's very soft, very chill, and it's sort of, while it is dealing with like, oh yeah, we were all stuck inside due to a deadly disease that's still ravaging the world now, but at the same time it was like, but you can still find like peace and comfort and all that during stressful times too. So that's also just really cute. So
it's hard to really nail down like this is the actual definition of it, because like we said, it can be aspects of a show. It can only be the way it's shot, or sometimes it is, well, this main arc feels like that with either the growth or the healing of the characters or something.
But it also like, it'll depend.
Someone's little tippy taps at the top.
That's on my end. The little tippy taps are on my end. He's now standing on the blanket I put on the ground, just looking at me like he's literally, he looks so pathetic. No, he looks like he's like,
I tap dancing today.
Yeah, he looks like, I'm a little abandoned child that nobody loves. And I'm like, buddy, you were on the bed until like 1:30. Like, anyway, I think it's also like important to note that while that's, I think, what like would be defined as like a healing drama, it really depends on you as a person, because not everyone would find that, you know, as cathartic as something else would be. And also it's like, it's all situational. Like, what are you trying to find an escape or a catharsis from? Might lead you to different types of dramas that where like the satisfaction of the drama becomes sort of a mental help to you.
That, well, like one of the dramas that immediately came into my mind, and I won't name it because what I'm going to say would be a spoiler otherwise, but it ends with essentially a girl killing another person, and it's so, I burst into tears when she did. It was so good. Because I was so afraid she was gonna die. Like, and then it was like, no. But like, I totally think of that drama as a healing drama because a lot of stuff happened and it was very cathartic. The big moment was murder, and you're like, okay.
Well, hey, listen, sometimes like you're at your job or whatever, and there's just this one motherfucker who is just like, their mission in life seems to be to test your every last nerve, and then you're watching a drama like that and there's a character that reminds you of that person and they get their comeuppance and suddenly you feel a little better about life. Like, I wouldn't normally say that, like, you know, office dramas are particularly healing, but like every once in a while, like you'll get that, you know, that gross boss who like just gets destroyed and you're like, yes, this was very satisfying. And, you know, and then you sort of live vicariously through these characters.
Although I do think that sometimes, especially in Korean dramas right now, that like an office drama can be a healing drama, like something like Missang or Radiant Office, where they use that sense of like bleakness and everything, and it gets overcome in that office setting, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's honestly why a lot of like Asian entertainment in general has a lot of suicide depicted, is because one, it's always like a educational thing, but like two, it's to like remind people that they're not alone and that like other people have experienced that. And it's like hard for us because like even though it's still like prevalent here, I don't think it's as prevalent in terms of like every aspect, because it's just the suicide rate is so high, especially in Asian countries, that it's kind of has to be there. And so that's a way of like a comfort for a specific person, like that may not be like comfort for like other people.
Yeah,
like it could seem not really abrupt to us, but since it's not as quite as commonplace here, but when it is more of an aspect of your life, it can be just speaking to that as a reality, and kind of like the slice of life thing, like that is an aspect of life to them. And not portraying that would be disingenuous, you know, because especially if it's the type of show that is trying to pretty much make the viewer feel like they're heard or seen. And I think that's kind of a thing too with healing dramas. Like sometimes it is a matter of, I feel like I've seen through watching this in a way.
You feel represented.
Even if it's simple, even if the character might not reflect you in a lot of ways, sometimes it's just a moment that they have of like an emotional moment or a little turning point, or even just emotional thought that you can tell the way they think it through, and you're like, that's something that I've experienced too. To me, there could be a drama that doesn't even really have a lot of other healing themes in it necessarily, but if you're able to feel seen like that, and sometimes it surprises you, sometimes you don't expect for that to happen when you're watching it. It's kind of neat when it does surprise you, because sometimes you go into a drama and you're like, oh, this looks like a healing one. You can kind of go in trying to pick out emotional themes that you do maybe find in common. But it's kind of neat when you're watching a show that you think you have, you know, nothing in common with this character, anything, and then all of a sudden it's like, the way they felt, I've been there. And then and you've maybe never told anyone in your life that you felt that way or experienced that or something, but if you feel seen, it's a big deal. Like I think that's really neat. And I will say, I think for me that's a big part of why I like watching Asian dramas. When people ask why do you like watching Asian dramas, it's really hard to just unpack all of that emotion.
There's a lot of background as to why. It's not like a simple one sentence.
The short answer is like, I like the way they portray emotion, right? Like that's the short answer to someone who's not well acquainted with Asian dramas.
Or you only have like a certain amount of time with this conversation.
This is your elevator pitch, right?
But whenever they think that, they're thinking, oh, rom-com, lovey-dovey, kissy-kissy emotion. It's like, that's actually not what I'm saying at all. I believe it maybe is because the more prevalence of female writers and the emotional intelligence that they often put within their stories. I'm not saying that it's every drama or anything like that. But again, sometimes it's a drama that you're not thinking you're going to find it, and all of a sudden you're like, ooh, that emotional moment. And all of a sudden that it might not become like a comfort drama, but if you remember that one part of it, it is kind of a comfort moment for you when you think back to it, and then that drama becomes more meaningful to you in general.
I always find it so nice with Asian dramas, like, you know, when you get into them, you know, you'll often hear people say things like, oh, like culture shock, like their culture is so different, and I don't think I could really understand one of those dramas, like I'm not familiar with the culture. But then when you watch them, you realize that there's these really wonderful universal themes and emotions that everyone can relate to, no matter where they're from. I feel like with like Asian dramas, since it's only one season for most of them, there's not that need to sort of sell itself to get rebooked. So you get a lot more diversity of types of shows that you can watch, because, you know, their commercialization is just like, you know, the, you know, PPL that they have in the show. Like, they're not trying to get turned into a second season, so they don't have to advertise to the most common denominator here. So you get these sort of more quiet, not exciting per se stories that you just don't see in Western television. And there's just something, you know, that connects with you as, like, you know, from a person who's, you know, halfway across the world, like on complete other side, that you and that person, like you and that writer or that character in that moment, like you realize that there's a commonality between all humankind.
What I think is really great about Asian, like especially like Korean and Asian dramas in general, I think because of what you said, because of there's that not that need that your whole entire production costs leans on in the second season, and also like, you know, production costs are different too, and like especially in American television, actors are paid higher, that sort of thing. It lends to allowing there to be like very character driven stories, and I'm a big character person, and it allows for characters to be flawed in ways that you don't like expect. You wouldn't get in a like a Western series. Not to say that doesn't happen, like there's still like dramas out there that do the same thing, but you get to see like characters that are like introverted, or characters doing other things that aren't like these showy crazy things, like astronomical like stories that would never happen to anyone, not even just like a little bit of like craziness that you're like, not everybody's gonna have that type of romance, but they're still like grounded in a way. Like I guess it's just that like there needs to be the showy because of the way that they have to get their money in like Western entertainment, that then kind of sidelines a lot of that character building stuff. And when you when you have that like small compacted series, you get to have the characters kind of shine, because you don't have to spend your 1 week on a fake bomb that nobody talks about again. Like throughout the series.
It's like, listen, exactly. 24 is fun, okay?
24 is a fun show for those. Like, you know, like, me, I love the like my mostly like shows. I love those types of things. It's just, I think a lot of that is put in there just because they need it to be there.
Yeah, sensational. They need it for,
and I completely understand the reasonings behind it, because at the end of the day, it is a business. Like it's you know, I feel like you get more ways of characters that you actually connect to a little bit more. Like say sort of something like My ID is Gundam Beauty. Would I ever really expect like a Western show to actually like do an introverted character well? No, because they don't even know. But like K-drama can put it in, and it's like, okay, I feel a little bit heard right now, because that's the type of person I am. Like
it's like they have room for more, not just emotional storytelling, but also more emotional characters, and showing more aspects of someone's inner thoughts a little better, in my opinion, because they have the storytelling space to do it, since they're not busy, you know, unless you're like Penthouse or something.
The whole show is supposed to be that way.
There's room for both, like, you know, absolutely saying that you can enjoy like a big over the top, like I love me some over the top nonsense, but like
sometimes you want quiet too, right?
Yeah, sometimes you don't want the sometimes the over the top nonsense is exactly what you need in your life. Like you just want to laugh hysterically at, you know, the shenanigans of the fake rich and famous, you know what I mean? Like, but that's not all the time, and when that's the only thing that you're offered is just like, you know, excitement after excitement after, they keep having to build up and be more exciting and more over the top, like it gets exhausting. Sometimes I think you want something quiet.
I think one of the things too with Asian dramas is because they have that short season, you have one writer and like they have a team that's helping them, but the characters more frequently, I'm not going to say always, but the characters more frequently stay their course from start to end. They're like, the storyteller has a story to tell, and they know how their characters should respond when something new, you know, when that product placement gets dropped on them in, you know, mid episode writing, they know how their character would deal with this or whatever, as opposed to Western stuff that goes on for 13 seasons and it has had 15 different head writers at various times. And now you're watching in season 12 and you're going, but no, like in season 2, this character would never have done this. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah.
All I can think
and
is
you don't
like,
have to deal with that. So they have to tell it.
The one that I can think of the most is like Grey's Anatomy.
Yes,
like
Grey's Anatomy is a perfect example.
Like, why the hell would anyone work at this hospital? It's a disaster zone. It ruins lives.
But also, watch it. The first season.
It's so good.
It's based
so
on
good,
the like
season.
latter seasons, and it's a completely different show.
Wildly
and the
different.
first season was character driven, and it became crazy driven, which is like fine and understandable, but it's like you don't have that such a drasticness. Like the only way to see that drasticness in like K-dramas is this like, you know, the serial killer like angle, but that's like it's very quiet too in a way. It's very like, okay.
Well, I felt like Grey's first season is like a healing mellow even, and then like Grey's now is like a Macjang, like it's just
what the hell is
total daily Macjang going on.
I would say most of Western stuff is Macjang, and something like Grey's Anatomy where it's like very weird, but not weird, but very nonsensical in that like these things would never happen ever, not even like kind of. That is a sense of healing for other people too. Like having something so absurd or unnatural is actually like a comfort to some people. That
because they can forget.
Yeah, they can forget about things and they just know that this is a safe place because this really isn't stuff that's going to ever happen to you.
Right. That's like stuff like, you know, like monster movies and, you know, like superhero films and, you know, sci-fi fantasy stuff. Like it's healing for some people because they can use it as a means to completely divorce their brains for the time that they're watching it from the problems that face them in the everyday world, because the problems being faced by these characters are not things that would ever face people in the everyday
you're like
world.
Safe to say you're not going to be the one facing those. You're like, I find comfort and that's like, not a worry in my life.
Yeah, like if you're watching Godzilla, like the chances of you encountering a multi-story tall laser fire breathing dragon creature is very unlikely.
Very small.
Like, very minuscule. Like, listen, nothing's ever impossible, but it seems pretty unlikely, you know?
Well, so I feel like Sweet Home for a lot of people, especially at the time that it came out, Sweet Home might not have hit the same way in a different time frame, right? Because but for us being in a pandemic, stuck at home, suddenly these people who are stuck at home and fighting fighting
a pandemic of sorts.
Yeah, like at least it's something they can fight, right? And it's like when you're feeling helpless, you're watching that and you're like, yes, fight that thing, because I can't fight this right now. Like I'm just stuck in my house and there's nothing I picking up an axe is not gonna help.
It's not but like you can't, you know, cut a virus with a sword, you know? Like, I get it.
So, I do think there's like also that kind of like turn, especially like with like horror and stuff. I find that like, especially with me personally, because I have a lot of anxiety about things, that there are like some aspects of like watching that, or maybe say some like true crime, where it becomes healing because it takes things that could potentially happen, right? Yeah. Because like intrusion is actually something that could happen to someone in their lives, like in that, and like it creates a safe place because then you start to like understand maybe potentially what happened, and you start to like almost like figure out ways that you could like help yourself in that situation. Yeah. Not that you like need to, or like it could be bad, like knowing that like mentally, but like it's a way of like curbing that anxiety, which then is healing for you, because you kind of are like taking this thing that is very anxiety inducing and like kind of actually getting control of it. Like you're taking control of it and figuring out the ways things, and you can do that by watching others do the things that they do in a movie, or see how it played out in like a true crime situation.
It's kind of like being exposed to those thoughts, or even kind of a thought experiment of this person dealt with it this way. And then like, you know, would I handle it similarly or whatever? And it kind of gives you a vicarious experience and exposure to it to where, maybe it helps.
And I mean, like, it could like help with even just like realizing what is actually true about that type thing and not the fantastical things that you're thinking of in your head, or that there's actually like, it's not a hopeless situation. Like not everybody who gets into those situations dies or gets hurt. Like there are ways out of it. So there's like that kind of sense of like hope at the end of the tunnel, and you can see that, and it can like really start to heal you a little bit because of the whatever trauma that's like making you fixate on that, you know?
Right. As opposed to the unknown, like if you had unknown completely, and how that could be a very anxiety inducing type thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to find comfort or healing and stuff, is what it comes down to.
Yeah. I would say that most of the people probably like who gotten into watching Asian dramas now during the pandemic was just doing it as a way just to like not think of anything, and you know,
and to pass time, you know.
Yeah,
Netflix recommended this drama, like let's check it out.
Especially when you're in your first kind of year of watching like subtitle content, you're focused on it, you know, more because your brain's still kind of adjusting to the watching the subtitles and reading that, and not
your
actually like hearing the things that you're reading too. And so I think it gave people a way to kind of focus in on stuff and like block out the world for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's funny how something like MDL would define healing dramas as like, oh, slice of life-esque type stuff, when it could be, like we said, the exact opposite of that. So like an example for me would be like Extraordinary You. It's a very fantasy driven show, but but aspects of how the characters deal with certain situations, again, if you feel like you're seen, or if you feel reflected in that, all of a sudden it does become like comforting to you. Or seeing how they grow or overcome something, again, it's kind of like a secondhand, like you feel proud of them or something. So there's just a lot of, something definitely doesn't have to be realistic, or it doesn't even have to be a slow pace or a soap opera filter type camera shot.
But listen, if that's what makes, like, if that's what helps
you,
that's
could literally be the only person that ever feels a healing, and it's still a healing,
and it's
drama,
fine. It's still valid. Like, I think even between the four of us, like dramas that we would pick, that we would consider healing, and like the way that we would set about like a healing drama session, like if we were, you know, needing some, you know, me time with some TV, you know what I mean? It would be a completely different scenario with each of us. So
well, and I think too that some of the dramas that I consider to be healing dramas are not dramas that I necessarily ever want to watch again. Like it was good and it did the thing, but like it's not what I would consider a comfort drama, right? So like sometimes they could be the same thing, and sometimes definitely not the same thing.
The healing could actually not come from you, but within the characters themselves. Like the characters on the screen are healing themselves, and it not be anything that's tied to you, and still be like a healing drama. Like I would say, like It's Okay, That's Love is a like kind of example of that, where it's like the characters are healing themselves. And I might watch it and not feel like it's a healing drama for me per se, but I could see that the characters are healing themselves. Where like Beauty Inside kind of does it too, where like it's just like the characters are kind of healing with whatever they're dealing with, or like kind of focusing their sense on being okay with who they are. And it may like translate into healing drama for some people, but others it could just be just entertainment on the screen, but you're seeing characters heal themselves.
Like another example would be Move to Heaven. Like, did I have anything in common with the characters on this show? Absolutely not in any way. But God, watching them, you know, come to terms with their lives got me in my feels.
Empathy, right? So it can be a healing drama and not be your healing, but still you have empathy for the characters, and you know, and that's a good thing. I like that I can watch something and not connect with the character on a personal level all the time. sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but like if it's a good character, I appreciate that they are getting to heal.
Or even like we talked about earlier, sometimes those cathartic type ones where maybe it is more of an actiony or violent type show, and you know, no personal attachment whatsoever, but you can see how those types of actions or whatever helps the character heal or work through their trauma or anything that they're going through. And then it becomes kind of cathartic for you because you can see how it helps them.
Yeah, you saw their journey, and seeing their journey play out is healing.
And I just think that Asian dramas do such a better job at giving emotional weight to even action thriller, crime drama. All of a sudden there's more of an emotional story going on quite often that is sometimes it is just problem solving, and that's great, but a lot of times there is like the characters work through all these emotional things together or separately, or sometimes it's a very in their own head thing. I mean, the way that some Asian dramas are able to portray people's solo thought processes on things. And that's always the thing, like, you want to tell people when they ask you, like, why are you watching Asian dramas so much? It's like, can you sit down for a good 10 minutes so I can actually
we're gonna need a little more time than you think we're gonna need.
Because me just saying it's good, oh, whatever, you know, it's like, no. They get a little bit deeper. What often happens.
A perfect example of this is Train to Busan.
Yes.
It's such a perfect example of what you're saying. It's because if you've never watched the movie, and you only know of it just like on passing, you just think it's this zombie horror film, when in reality the real story of it is that the characters and the human experience and the way that Gonyu's character is, the way that he is in the very beginning and the way that he grows throughout this journey, like just in being a dad, like just that alone. But then you can also see it in some of the other characters, even if they're like the minorest of characters. You see, like, you know, some of the bad people in that movie are just entitled people. Like, it's not this necessarily zombies. And I think that's just that like is a testament to what they can do, and what they prefer to focus on is kind of more of the human experience, even in these like fantastical realms.
Again, we enjoy Western media. There can be emotional stories in Western media.
Yeah.
But that's why sometimes if you get used to, especially if you mostly consume the stuff that is more emotionally driven, Asian drama side, and then especially if you pick up a show you don't know much about on the Western side, and then you're like, I feel like half of the story's missing because like they're not
wait a second, what's going on here?
What's this person's thought processes? How are they feeling about this? You're not telling me anything. I don't care what he's doing. What does he think about it? Like, and you sometimes do feel like there's that disconnect. And you're like, oh, and then you get used to it again. It's totally. But I think that definitely when I started watching Asian dramas, it was the emotional side that I immediately picked up on. Like, there's way more storytelling going on here than I think I had experienced with a lot of other movies and shows and stuff.
Agreed.
So, we mentioned previously about how each of us probably has a different sort of, comfort evening that we would plan for ourselves. So, what is it, ladies? What's your idea of the perfect, comforting, healing evening with dramas? Set the scene for us.
For me, it's usually a hot bath. My husband made me one of those nice like wooden trays that sits on top of the bath.
Nice.
And I set up my tablet and put on something not too heavy. Like usually try to go for something a little lighter, but something not goofy either. Like I want something, maybe a rom-com, but like, I don't know. I feel like Japanese, I usually gravitate towards Japanese for those because the episodes tend to be shorter too and stuff. But I just like slap something on and, have maybe a glass of wine or a cup of tea or something and just be warm and watch something.
For me, it actually like directly like was one of the reasons why I picked my username that I did, One in a K-drama. It was literally because like one of the things that I found like was really comforting was just the kind of like at the end of the day, especially if it had been working or it'd been like a particularly like draining day, being able to kind of like hang out on the couch with like a glass of wine and watch a couple of episodes of a drama. And especially when it was like kind of later at night, so like it was dark out, and then especially I'm a very big like fall person because I just like when it's colder outside. And so like especially when you could have like the windows open, or even when it's like gets a little bit more towards like winter, where you could be like kind of actually like cold and snuggled up, like that's very comforting to me. It just kind of creates the perfect night where you can just kind of like sit and relax and just like have fun with this story that's like kind of like unfolding you, and you're like comforted because like I like wine, but I'm not like a wine connoisseur, and that's not why.
You enjoy wine, you don't enjoy wine.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was just like, it was kind of like almost like a nice like ritual. It was like a way of my like body and my brain being like, it's the end of the day before bed. This is like your trigger for it to be kind of a nice comforting period of time.
Let me set the scene. A bed, just a bed covered in comfy blankets. You got a nice pillow, soft. I like the soft pillows. Don't like the squishy ones. You know the ones I mean? Like, I like the soft cotton ones, not the ones that like deform to your. Yeah, wearing like a nice onesie, but no socks, because socks are for the devil. Socks inside? No. Let the little toesies go free. I got a nice fan on. Okay, I got my TV going. I got a cup of tea that I did not have to make myself sitting next to me. Nice, snack of some sort. Usually there is a small, annoying dog snuggled up next to me because that's my life. And I usually pick something. Well, it really depends on like the mood. If I've had like a shitty day or week or whatever, I will go for either something like a zombie movie or something really goofy. But if I've had like a good day and this is just like a good end to like a good day, I usually go for something, maybe like not a rom-com per se, but like something with a little romance, something with a nice story to it, just something real chill just to end out my nice, But yeah, if I had a shitty week, back before I got into Asian dramas, I was really obsessed with the video game Diablo 2. And every time I would have a bad day, if you play Diablo 2, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I would go in to the first section of Diablo 2 and find as many fallen as I could, which are the annoying little red devil dudes, and like just kill as many of them as I could because they are so annoying, and I would just feel better. So sometimes when you're having a bad day, you're just like, I want to see someone live my dreams. I want to see that. Zombie hunter just live my dreams for me,
I want to be a zombie hunter, so.
I just like, listen, I do not have the physical capabilities to be a zombie hunter, but I like seeing other people live in the dream, You
guys covered a lot of my stuff.
That's okay, because this is a personal thing. That's okay. We can be similar. It's the no socks thing, right?
It's the wine. She wanted the wine.
Yeah. If there's one thing we know about Sky, is that she loves drinking wine.
Wine and socks.
I tried a wine lately and I actually liked it. So like that was really weird. But I was gonna say about Natalia's thing, she said like socks are for the devil, so I just immediately thought of the devil wearing socks, and it just made me laugh.
And his little cloven hoofs.
Yeah, like
you know it.
Like now I need a drawing rendition of like the devil wearing socks. It just seemed fun.
It's gotta be hot there. It's gotta protect you.
Yeah, you gotta protect the little footsies, right?
For me, it's probably just, and I do definitely like the cold weather thing whenever possible. I really enjoy fall. And then ideally, if I could be in the camper watching stuff, that'd be great. Internet, though, I don't know. I need to figure out how to download stuff better. But if my dogs could be chill, that's always helpful if they're sleeping. And I can actually get through a couple of episodes in a whack. That's great. That makes me very happy that I don't have to get up a good 5 times per episode. but
I wouldn't count on it.
But this is your perfect night.
This is
Oh, that's true. This is the ideal night. The ideal night. In this ideal night, your husband has the dogs. He's taken them on a nice adventure.
Well, there are some evenings that they're like, well, we're gonna sleep for a couple hours. I'm like, yes, like I can like actually literally binge, as opposed to the binge that gets interrupted multiple times, which I don't get frustrated at. I'm very used to these things, but
yeah,
just saying, in my ideal night, there's sleep at least, as opposed to wanting to go outside 5 times. And probably a fun drink, but usually for me that's not alcoholic. Now, if we're talking cold weather, hot chocolate, that's
oh yeah,
or spicy tea. Ooh,
ooh, like a nice chai.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, ooh, let's get cozy. I'm ready.
It's like still a little too hot to get cozy, but
we're just there. Like, we're so close.
We're so close.
And probably the type of show that I would usually go for would be, now if I've had a rough day, I do tend to go kind of for the action stuff a little bit more. But if it's been pretty calm and whatever, I probably gravitate towards something character driven if possible. I do not usually reach for the super funny stuff then. Super funny is when I'm kind of feeling down, I think. But actually on a normal day, I don't prefer the funny all the time. If I'm just trying to relax, the super funny, sometimes I find it off-putting. If I'm
it happens. Like,
if I'm trying to just be chill and somewhat realistic, and I think the show's gonna be kind of realistic, and then it takes some turns, I'm like, man, I'm gonna go pick something else.
It takes a wild adventure. You were not that. Listen, that happens. It happens.
And that's not to say that I don't like those types of shows. I've figured out, I think my first year of watching dramas, everything's so new that you just try a lot of different things. For me, I am a very moody watcher, I think, and I have to be in the correct mindset to handle some genres of shows. But the more slightly realistic shows are the easy pickups for me.
Yeah.
I don't have to mentally get into my super imaginative headspace. But I like a good fantasy. I really do. I just have to be ready to deal with like the nonsensical aspects of it. But yeah, just getting cozy and unwinding and being able, I like being able to binge through a few episodes at a time. Like that's, if you have the time to just get lost in the story at least a little bit for a while, that's what I really like.
I think like with those types of the shows that are like really good, that are like bingeable but not necessary bingeable, where like you can stop it at any point, it's going to be fine, but like there's the binge because you just are like naturally enjoying it, not like you like are invested in the story and you want to like complete it like a thriller. Where there would be sort of a cliffhanger. Those are the really good ones where you could like just do 2 and it's very like satisfying, but you still enjoyed it. I really like those, especially for those type of nights. I mean, like I will like probably focus more on like a horror, especially if it's cold outside, because it just like feels like nice and comfy.
Or
but like
when you're in the spooky season,
but like
October.
I guess the more character driven or the more found family driven ones are the ones that are like nice like that, where it's kind of like you can have just those 2 episodes and it be just very content, like with the night in your.
And sometimes that's even the plot arc, how it's naturally written, like kind of a small end cap after a 2 episode arc of something. But that's always really nice. As opposed to the binge that's like, I must know what happened.
Yeah, there's the binge where you're like,
where every episode ends on some kind of cliffhanger, and you're like,
stressful binge.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
That is the opposite of comforting.
Exactly.
It could be fun too.
That is when you're like staying up all night and knowing that you're not going to sleep or have very few hours of sleep.
Also, it's good. So even for the ones that aren't like thrillers or anything, but if it's good if other people warn you if a show is like, no, once you start it, you're not good. Like you will not probably want to put that down. Yeah. So like an example for me was, because this is my first life, like that is not a thriller show. It's not like are they gonna die? But that's like you start it, and if it hits with you and you're invested in it, you're gonna want to see the end.
I watched it as it was airing. Biggest mistake of my life. Biggest mistake of my life.
It was. I did too, and it was like I would watch every single episode like 3 times because it would out and it was sticky and there was no subs. But I didn't care, so I was going to watch it. I watched it with no subs, and then I'd watch it again when it was subbed, and then I watched it again because the next episode out yet. You know, like I mean. The set of 2, we'll call them as one episode, but you know, like over the course of a week, just like every episode 3 times, because I was like, I just need more, and there is no more to watch. Like,
so dear listener, if you're listening, we all recommend Because This Is My First Life. We're all big fans,
but do not assume that you can just put 2 episodes on of that sucker and be happy.
No, you want to know what happens. Like you could.
I mean, if you're looking for a binge, you're like, yeah, I have this like long weekend and I want to binge.
Perfect choice, and it's on Netflix. Perfect. But like, it invests you in the characters so quickly, and then just as a little icing on the top, little cherry, there's an adorable cat.
Hey,
yes.
What else do you want?
Like literally cutest cat.
Very really is. Cat. There are points you're like, I love the 2 so much, but that cat is doing something in the background, and that's all I'm paying.
You're like, that cat is like doing the
major parts, and I'm like, put the cat in the background. Like, there's that one like big scene where they're in her room, and he's crawling on the like back on like the bookcase, and I'm like. I'm gonna have to watch this scene twice again.
Like, cause you're like, ooh, that cat is working it. That cat is working the set. It's a cute cat.
Speaking of Netflix, another something that's happening currently is Jessie recently shared a list of like some of the dramas that are going to be pulled at the end of the month.
Oh my god!
And there's a handful of ones that I've known I've legitimately like really wanted to watch. I know I will probably really enjoy, but I have not made the time to do it because I've been trying to stay so current or whatever with other ones I've been interested in. And there are things that I just thought would always be around.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like the whole drama fever thing.
Yeah.
You thought it would be around, and then all of a sudden, oh no. Like now I know this will not be around. So talk about stress binging. Like,
no, I'm the same way right now.
Yeah.
Like,
here's a handful of dramas. It's like, I'm going to be stress binging. Like, if I don't finish this ASAP, there's going to be a problem.
I mean, to be fair, there are a couple of them on Viki, but like, if you only like have Netflix, then
yeah, I should double check between the 2 and be like, okay, this one is like actually gonna poof.
I'm sure we will put a link to this thread on the website for anyone who's like, oh shit, what ones?
So if you want to stress binge,
join us.
Once you start one, I mean, there's ways to go about binging in a non-stressful way. It's just we know that we have an expiration date.
No, this was our portion of the non-healing drama.
Well, here's what you do. Find ones on that list that are healing dramas, and then maybe it balances out for you.
So how about before we go, we each recommend 2 dramas that we found, particularly healing.
And we'll probably put up a list on my drama list of more than just these 8. So, check it out there.
So we went age order the first time. So Sky, we're going reverse age.
Yeah. So you get to pick first.
30 but 17.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. I didn't even write that down. That's great.
And I will say that one in particular, the characters themselves experience healing. And also, I mean, I don't know how much I personally identified a ton with some of it, but it was very heartwarming and found family aspects, and it's just a really, really good watch. And it is not incredibly stressful later on. The first couple of episodes are a little tough, not like hard, but the main character is going through a really tough time in her life. So for her character, it is a very difficult moment. So don't go in thinking it's all fluffy and roses and stuff. Like, she has to overcome a lot.
Yeah.
And is it really like super realistic with that? Probably not quite. But the way they handle the emotional side of those characters is really well done. And I did appreciate the different relationships between different age groups of people and stuff. And from all different kind of backgrounds and things. It was just, I like characters when they get close, even though they may not be, you know, all same age friends type thing.
Yeah.
These people are all actually very different, but they've all been through things and they come together, and I just really enjoyed that. I'm gonna say, sorry if I steal it, Hospital Playlist.
You did. That's okay.
Here, Hospital Playlist.
No, I've got like more. It's okay.
Okay, don't worry about it.
No, I've got Hospital Playlist too. It's fine.
We've all got Hospital Playlist, okay?
Hospital Playlist. The thing about it is it shows people going through things. And it does show an idealized version of what, you know, hospital work life is. But the manner that this group of friends, and also seeing them not at work, being just friends and dealing with aspects of each other's lives, not in the workplace. To me, that's a good part of it too. Yeah. You're not always in the hospital. You are also dealing with their relationships and all types of things, even just their group of friend relationships and the personal growth that they're all working through their own stuff. You're seeing side characters work through their own stuff and achieve. And that's why it's kind of idealized. As far as real life, you don't get to see all these side people you don't know that well make gains in their money or like relationship life or something, but it's nice to, or you get to see these little vignettes of like, this episode we're going to talk about this patient that's really going through this rough time. They don't even know, but you get to see this person behind the scenes helped them somehow, and it made a huge difference in their life, and now they have a better shot at life and healing and all these things. So even you see literal healing from like pretty much every character you run across, but it does not feel like unrealistic, though it's idealized, and it's never easy, and there can be death. I mean, stuff happens. So there's a lot to Hospital Playlist, and a lot of people get scared by the timestamps on it as far as how long.
It does not feel that long when you're watching it.
It doesn't feel that long. It's also a show that, like, even though I personally really love like sitting through the entire episode, you can stop it and return to it, and it's not gonna like hinder your experience, or like you won't have to like adjust to like remember what was going on. It's really easy to do.
Yeah, the storytelling and the pace of the storytelling is another thing, as far as typically not very stress inducing, despite being again, taking place in the hospital half the time or more. There will be stressful moments if you're in the midst of like dealing with something, but just the way everything's handled, but mostly the relationships and the growth that you see throughout all the characters, they're really good. And that's I still haven't picked up season 2 yet, but I will.
So for me, for first, I'm gonna pick one that it got all my emotions out, and I've mentioned it several times. It's literally the only drama that's ever made me cry, and that would be Move to Heaven. It's like, dramas do not make me cry, okay? Like, I do not cry watching movies, nothing. I don't know what was up with this drama. Like, it has everything for, like, a good catharsis. Like, if you've just been bottling up your emotions and, like, just you're feeling stressed out by life, and you just need, sometimes you just need a good cry to, like, get yourself right, But you can't make it happen. The show will make it happen. The show will make it happen.
But don't go in not wanting to cry. That is not the show to pick.
No, if you're looking to like have, bone dry eyes, this ain't the show. This ain't it, Chief. Like, this is not gonna happen. And my other one is a bit of like, it's a bit of an outside, but I will explain why, obviously. And that would be the massive 50 episode C-drama The Untamed, which is on Netflix. And I think mostly the structure of how the show is put together, which is based on the structure of the novel, so it does make sense, where you see how the character ended up. It has like sort of a 3 to 4 act structure, where act 1 is you see what happens, like how the character ended up, like, and then it starts telling his story of how he gets to this point, and it's got it's got so much good like character interactions, like you've got miscommunications and betrayals, and it just like you fall in love with all these characters, and they all have very different personalities, and like they go through, you know, all sorts of trials and things, and then you finally see how it like led to this point, and you're like, oh, like, because when you first meet the characters, you're like, well, how does that happen to him? Like, he seems like such a nice, fun loving, sweet guy. Like, how does this isn't even, it happens in the first 30 seconds, so I can't, it's not a spoiler. The show starts with him like getting stabbed by his brother and falling off a cliff into like the depths of hell, essentially, is how the opening of this show happens. And then he's like reborn into a new body, which is just his old body for ease of purpose, but
actor purposes.
Yeah, but nobody recognizes him, whatever. Of course. But like, just the story of like him remembering all of the shit that happened, that like there's something just emotionally fulfilling about this whole tale. And then there's like a whole other, this show is complex. There are a billion characters, like all wuxia fantasies.
But they're great.
They're great characters. It's a good show, and there's a reason why it's as popular as it is. And if you haven't like checked it out, like I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's, you know, that show that was supposed to be gay, but like Chinese censorship, it's so much more than that. Like, also it's still plenty gay, don't worry about it, guys. Like, if that's what you're in it for, like, worry not. But like, there's so much going on, and you just like the characters, their growth and their arcs, just they pull at your heart, you know. And there's just, and the Ghost General. Oh, the Ghost General.
As someone who knows nothing about the Ghost General, that's really funny.
I know. Like,
he's such a sweet.
Oh, Ghost General.
Such a little bean. Like,
a little bean.
Like, like
a murdery little bean.
Is it? It wasn't his fault. He didn't mean it. Anyway. Anyway, yeah. See, now if you want to know what's up with the Ghost General, I guess you're gonna have to go on to Netflix and watch The Untamed. It's incredible, and though the first couple episodes will be very confusing, the longer you watch, the less confusing it gets. So keep
with it.
Keep with it, yeah.
So one question I've had,
yes,
I kind of have with a lot of those types of shows, and I would always want to ask in particular with each show, but with The Untamed, since there is a large cast of characters, do you just kind of let that wash over you and not worry too much about who's who constantly? And
also, like, in terms of the costumes, most of the characters are color-coded, so you can at least, like, know, like, who they're associated with, like, even if you don't remember their names.
But, like,
you're
don't
red
even
dude.
try.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, the guy who wears the purple, that's the main dude's brother. The guys in the blue and white, they're like the, you know,
they're a different family. There's they're color.
The ones with the red dot, like, that's a different clan. Like, the ones who carry this sort of sword, that's But like, there's only
visual cues that help.
Yeah, there's all these like minor characters, but there's only like 10 main characters. So like, once you get a handle on those characters, you're good. But you know, the other ones are just incidental. Like, oh, here's that, you know,
grandpa or whatever.
Yeah, here's that dude who hangs out with the other dude. Like, yeah.
That's very helpful.
No, like they're all they're literally color coded. Like, oh, you're wearing red? You must be from the Wen clan. You're wearing white and blue, and you have the little thing over your forehead. You must be from the Lan clan, from the cloud recesses. Okay. I think it's a testament to sort of the characterization of the show that it's become popular with people who are not into wuxia
Right.
dramas
Right.
whatsoever. I have seen some hilarious hot takes on the drama from people who don't know what the source material is. I think my favorite being, there was like this British writer, I think she was British, trying to figure out, why do people like the Untamed so much? And her analysis was because there were so many attractive single male characters that women can, you know, lust after or whatever. And I was like, ooh, girl, sure, fine, but it may not be reciprocated. So, but yeah, no, it's just it just has so many, I can't call it comforting, but like, I just love it. And I think other people would love it too, even if they're not really into that sort of show. But I will warn you, the first couple episodes, you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, but keep watching.
You'll get there.
Yeah, and also, like, keep in mind that these characters, despite the fact that, like, things will happen, like, 30 years, different time, they'll look exactly the same. Okay, we're living in a fantasy world where nobody ages past the age of like 23. Okay, so when they're playing 16-year-olds, they look 23. When they're playing 40-year-olds, they look 23. Just go with it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so I was going to pick 12 Nights as one of my options, but we have a full spoiler episode on
That's
that.
true, we do.
So I'm going to make you go listen to that instead of like, talking about it. So evil plan. It'll be linked in our blog post. Don't worry. The first one I'm going to pick is truly a healing one within the characters. The characters are healing throughout the entire journey of the series, and that is the series Just Between Lovers. It's kind of a hard one because it really is, it's a mellow, so you're gonna have some parts where it's gonna be really hard. The story is about a mall that collapses, and it follows some of the characters who were part of that collapse and the aftermath of it and dealing with it, because most of the characters that we like, at least the two specific ones, their two main characters, were young. They were in their teens when it happened, and now it's been, I don't know, it's an anniversary, maybe like 10 years, 15 years, I can't remember, since the anniversary of this collapse. And it deals with just the kind of aftermath of it, the pains that the people who lived through it deal with it, the pains of the family members of the people lost dealt with it, and the two main characters go kind of on a journey to heal themselves from their PTSD through themselves finding each other and other things that they do, which I won't, they're not super spoilers, but like you get to a point where you kind of see what's going on. Kind of the main crux of this whole thing is that there's now an apartment complex trying to be built on the grounds of the place, and so that's a big thing. But it's really beautiful. I think it's really done really well. I think it showcases a lot of what trauma can do to people in general. And they do some really great things with, like, not only the PTSD of the survivors who have to go through really reliving what happened, reliving the trauma that they were the ones who survived and other people didn't. So I really respected that, and the way that they did that, and the way that some of they're not even like main characters or like one-off characters from an episode will talk about how they have trauma because they maybe potentially were the reason that person was in that area at that one time when it's really not their fault. And they kind of showcase a lot of that kind of grief. And I think it's just done really beautifully and really respectfully, and everybody does really well. I really, really suggest watching it. It's one of my favorite dramas, so I highly suggest watching it. It's really good all around. And I think every character in the entire story does really well with it, because you really do see the aspect of every single person, no matter how they're connected or how far away they're connected. You see the viewpoints of the stress that it caused and what happened in the aftermath of that. And I just think it does a really good job at that. It is technically not like true story, but like there was a massive building that collapsed in Korea that it's kind of referencing. So there's also that too. So I'm sure in terms of what we were saying before, it might not be something specifically for us to deal with, but I'm sure that there are people who still are around who lost family members or were part of it that collapse, that maybe this was a healing drama for them because it was a really significant thing in Korea.
That's always interesting how sometimes K-dramas, they will take similar aspects of some large grief thing that happens, and it's obvious that they try to help people process it.
Yeah.
Making a show pretty soon after, it seems. And
yeah,
that's definitely something that I haven't seen Western media really grapple with before.
No, when we do stuff like that, it's usually just to sensationalize the horrible experience, like right? Like, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But Jessie, Just Between Lovers, you've rewatched it a few times, haven't you? Like, there's a big rewatchability aspect of it.
I mean, I guess some people can't, like, you wouldn't be able to because it is very emotional. There is, it is really, like, there are parts when you'll cry on it, and it's not, it is something that could be a trigger to people. But I personally have watched it twice full.
Wow.
And I loved every aspect of it. It also has some really great found family aspects to it, and like not even found family, but like actual found family. Like there's like a difference between like a found family of like cast of characters that come together and like a group of people who actually had to come together and function as an actual family unit that happens with that I think they do. So yes, highly suggest it. It's on Viki.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. And then the next one is maybe more of like a healing comfort drama for me personally, even though it, like, I don't really connect with the characters or anything like that. It was a good drama for me to watch at the time, and it's called In Time with You. It's a Japanese drama. It's on Viki. I know that they aired it on Viki. It's a friends to lovers story, and it's about the two friends who are best friends, and they have a really beautiful relationship, and it really focuses on the female who's kind of going through things and going through like life and just pressures of like, you know, being a woman in society essentially, and being someone who's been in really tough relationships and kind of trying to find their worth and their footing in like both relationships of love relationships and work relationships. And I really like it because I do enjoy friends to lovers as a genre. But I also love more friends who stay friends. A lot of like friends to lovers, I don't think does it correctly for me in terms of, I don't like when it's one-sided and then like all of a sudden the other side kind of starts to feel the same as the other side, because I feel it's kind of like it presents itself to maybe more manipulated or like controlled by the other person. And this story doesn't do that. It is clear that the male who is still very much in love with her is not pursuing anything because he knows what she's dealing with and is not and respecting her. And it's just it's a really beautiful story. It's a remake of Taiwanese drama that I also think does well. I haven't watched it, so I don't know. It's definitely not anywhere that I can find, and I've heard from other people that they really like it. There's also another version of it, maybe a Thai version or a Korean version. Possible. I don't know, but I feel like the Japanese drama is supposed to follow more closely to the Taiwanese drama. So if you're kind of looking for that, I also personally really loved it because I love the actors who played in the Japanese drama. They did some things that you could tell they were just their connection with each other filming, you know, and that sort of thing, and just their connection with their families. They have like such beautiful families, both of them. It's really sweet, and they're like fun, and it's just it's healing in a way because you're like, it's emotional at times and you feel sad or like you feel upset for the person, but like it's healing because you see the journey of them get together when they're supposed to, not like forced, and just the journey of being in this, seeing this beautiful relationship, because their relationship, even as just best friends, is very, very beautiful. And it was like a really great like watch for me. It made you feel warm inside and like nice, and just all around like was a great drama for me.
A few of the ones that I would have mentioned, we've already talked about, like when, well, not this, you know, but like in the episode when the weather's fine was one for me. And like even just Sky had mentioned Chicago Typewriter, and that kind of is on my list because there is a lot of healing that goes on in that one too. But I think for me, the first one that kind of popped into my head is My Mister, or Maya Jushi, which is heavy. It is not light. It's heavy, and it's about healing for the characters, not so much healing for me watching it. But it starts dark and it starts hard, and it's a hard watch in the beginning especially, but it does get better, and it gets better slowly. And like I always describe it as being a light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. And if you can make it through the first like 4 episodes, you can see that light, and the drama heads clearly towards it from that point forward. So it's beautiful. It has great characters, and people are not perfect, and people who are bad are not all bad, and people who, you know, it's flawed people doing bad things sometimes that hurt other people, and then people coming out of that, and people choosing to be good even though bad things are done to them and stuff. Like it's when I'm describing it, it kind of comes across like it's a crime drama or something, which it's not. It's like an office drama, but but it's really intense, kind of like it's a really good one. And there's family, and there's found family, and there's the interconnectedness of that, and there's there are sort of romantic relationships, but like I know that a big concern when the show was announced was that IU is the main female lead, and the guy in it is old enough to be her dad, and people were kind of freaking out about it being a romantic, and it is not a romantic relationship between them, and that's not a spoiler. It's just not. And it's good. It's just a really good thing. And I think for some people, knowing that it's not romantic going in lets you just kind of chill a little bit about
romance, people. Not everything.
So yeah, and it's just about healing. It's about trauma and loss and struggle, and it's good. It's so good. I have never rewatched it though, because it's very, very good, but it's very, very hard to watch at times. So I'm just like, no, not today. You know, I keep saying like, yeah, maybe sometime, and then that pandemic hit, and time has just not been hitting for me. So
you're like, not
this time. So I think the other one I'm going to mention is a Chinese drama that I watched last year before, I don't remember, called Journey Across the Night, which deals with mental illness a lot. And yeah, healing in some weird ways, but it kind of has that vignette thing that happens in other dramas like Mystic Pop-Up Bar and stuff, where you get healing for like side characters every couple of weeks, and I kind of take it, you get a bit of that in Hospital Playlist and stuff like that too, where you get like those little stories, right? With side characters, with patients, whatever. And so there's those stories going on, but there's also like an arc of, there's like 3 main characters who are friends who also have problems, 2 of them more specifically than the third one, but who have struggles with mental illness in their lives directly, with their parents, with their siblings, with, you know, their life. And just that the healing in that doesn't always look like a complete healing, right? It looks like finding the source of that trauma and then learning how to move around it in a way that lets you function. And not at all was that what I was expecting when I went into it, because it was the trailer made it out to be a horror show, which I don't know why I picked it up when that's what they made it look like, because that's not usually my thing, but I'm glad I did. So it's not really a horror show, but it's very cool and very, very healing, very unexpected ending. I enjoyed it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary friends, this has been our episode about healing dramas. We hope you enjoyed listening to it. If you want all the links and everything that we talk about, you're going to have to go to certifiednoonas.com, our website, to find the links to everything that we talked about. And if you want to follow us on social media, we're on pretty much all the social medias, but most strongly on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter's kind of where we live generally, as people, you know. And if you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/certifiednoonas to become part of the Certified Found Family. That's right. The Found Family is the best. They're wonderful. We have a lot of fun over there. And, you know, we do things. And also, if you want to, you know, come chat all things drama, music, Asian entertainment, you're going to have to go to our Discord. We have a Discord that is popping off generally. We have a good time on Discord. You know, we love hearing suggestions from our listeners, and, you know, discussions about what we talked about, and, you know, what people are watching, what they're listening to. So we do all that on the Discord, and we have a good time. So thank you for listening. You can find us wherever podcasts can be found, as well as YouTube. But go to the website if you want all the links and all the episodes. And we hope you have a fantastic week. You take time for some self-care, take care of yourself, and keep enjoying Asian entertainment. Bye!
Bye!